Hi everyone.
Kale Chutesto here.
Dude, that is my shit. And I know you did not just try to steal my shit.
Kill Chortumbo here.
Björk is an Icelandic singer, songwriter, producer, one of the most unique voices in modern music, instantly recognizable, a one-of-a-kind talent, thanks to her incredibly strong and confident vocals and her sort of unorthodox approach to pop music with very experimental, progressive instrumentals. Also, the fact that she's given fans a new direction with each record, from the vocally dense medulla to the whimsical and enchanting vespertine, my personal favorite, the electronically tinged trip-hop music and house music influenced homogenic, her very intimate and stripped-back debut record, and the album she left us off with, Biophilia, which was a record and an iPad app together. In one capacity or another, Björk has been in the music industry a long time. She came out with her first record around the age of 12, and later on in the 80s went on to play a significant role in Icelandic post-punk and noise rock bands like Pukul and Tapi Takaras, and then went on to the Sugar Cubes in the late 80s and the 90s, doing a lot of post-punk, alt-rock, and dream pop with them. Then after that, she went on to make the records we all know her for today. Consistently throughout her career, she has always jumped at the chance to do something different, do something new, do something ambitious, and in the case of Biophilia, to sort of bring in an app that would kind of complement the music seemed to be that new thing, that next step she was taking there. But I also think this record kind of marked a change of pace musically for Björk too. A lot of the songs on this record unfold like stories. And even though there was a good chunk of this record I was kind of underwhelmed by, when I did like it, Björk's lyrics and the really lush background instrumentation created a sense of wonder, especially with all these themes of nature and the world and space and mythology coming up in the lyrics. And for me, this new record right here, Vulnicura, actually takes off from where Biophilia left in a lot of ways. To me, a lot of the songs on this record read like stories, read like theatrical pieces, follow a kind of linear structure, or at least the music feels like it bends to the whims of Björk's narrative rather than Björk sort of forming her lyrics into a more predictable verse, chorus, verse deal. But the lyrical focus on this record is so much more personal, not really the same intrigue toward nature on this record, though Björk does like to bring up such for the sake of metaphor or kind of creating a mood. Narrative-wise, this album really kind of reads like the build-up towards and the aftermath of a really significant breakup. And Björk is actually as bold as to, in the lyric sheet of this record, put the months, either 3 months before, 5 months before, 9 months before, sort of putting you in the time frame of the mind state that went into this song, as well as 2 months after, 6 months after, 11 months after, giving you an idea of feeling the dread of just kind of seeing that oncoming storm, or just not really being able to stop what you know is coming, and then sort of healing after the trauma of having this thing torn away from you that you felt really strongly about. This breakup record to me is a little different than others in that it doesn't really focus on the breakup itself, but a lot of the things sort of surrounding it. Another thing pointed out in the liner notes of this record are the co-stars and co-producers, two of which led to a lot of excitement toward the release of this album. Dark ambient producer The Haxon Cloak, as well as new up-and-coming superstar producer Arca, who had a pretty big hand in the latest two releases from art pop starlet FKA Twigs. Her latest full-length LP, LP1, was one of my favorites of 2014. I sort of catch Björk's collaborators in whiffs on this LP, like on History of Touches, where the very icy, skipping, just stuttering synths all over this track just feel like something that could have landed on LP1, and on the song Family, just the deep, dark, heavy, bassy drum kicks on that track feel like something that could have landed on Haxon Cloak's last full-length LP2. Outside of that, and just the really in-depth, personal breakup narratives all over this record, much of this album is pretty familiar territory for Björk. I think there are a lot of similarities between this record and Biophilia, and considering the very subtle, ever-evolving beats on this record, combined with the lush strings and just really theatrical vocals, this album in a lot of ways feels kind of like Vespertine. For Björk to go back to that sound on right here, I think is kind of fitting given the romantic and sometimes very sexual content that we see on that record, which was likely inspired by the same romantic relationship that we see in its demise here. So while this LP isn't really the new sound or direction I was hoping for, given the collaborators and the fact Björk always has something new up her sleeve, I do think this album still stands strong as an elaboration of one of my favorite moments in Björk's career. The record kicks off with 3 tracks, which are the subtler, more primordial songs which the album's more intense emotions grow from later on. You have the song Stonemilker, which is kind of foreshadowing toward the demise of this relationship thanks to a lot of shortcomings. Some emotional needs aren't being met. There's a lack of mutual RESPCT. There are feelings that must be synchronized. I love how Björk can take the emotional language of love and approach it in a way that is beautiful and poetic, but also kind of scientific and calculated, like a robot trying to make sense of emotions or something. Moving on to the next song, LIONSONG. I love the very tight, slightly manipulated and just strange, chilling vocal harmonies all over this track. Really makes it a highlight. And lyrically on this song, we seem to have Björk alluding to a war or a fight of some sort and fretting, really just worrying about whether or not this love she has going is going to survive this fight or this war. And she kind of compares maintaining this love to taming a lion, which I don't really think she has any patience for. And then on the next song, which features my favorite lyrics on the entire record, A History of Touches, this track is all about the difficulty of just filing through all of those leftover positive, beautiful, and endearing memories that you might have left over building up to and after the breakup point. Especially those memories of a more sexual nature. While in one context, at one point in the relationship, they could be beautiful, afterwards, after the demise, they could sort of be torturesome. Is that even a word? I don't know. And the way she describes dealing with these memories, sort of being overwhelmed by them and facing all of them at once, it kind of reminded me of the that recent film Interstellar, the way Matthew McConaughey toward the end of the movie, spoilers, was seeing all of these various memories and sort of time hallways, I guess you could say, of his daughter's room at various points. It kind of seemed like Björk was floating in this purgatory of just sort of seeing all of these different memories around her all at once and not really knowing how to deal with it. Then we get the 10-minute Black Lake. Instant mood change on this track. Just it turns so gloomy so fast. The track is profoundly sad and really theatrical about it. Her vocals just constantly swell and shrink in volume. There's some wonderful swelling strings on this track too, and amazing beat shift in the second half. And the way she describes this love being torn away from her at this point, she feels naked. She's missing something really essential to her being, like a womb or a shield for protection. And the song Family kind of takes on the way this relationship breaking apart affects the people outside of it, specifically children who might be, sort of relying on the foundation of these two people. And again, this is another reason I really like the way this album approaches this theme. While it's dealing with a cliche topic, it concerns itself with sort of the minor outer-lying things that aren't usually discussed in length. The stuff that on the surface, while it may seem less dramatic and sexy and intense, Björk still finds a very large amount of heartbreak in these moments and translates them onto the record musically and lyrically really nicely. And while the final 3 songs on this record don't really feel like they are placed in any kind of specific timeline in the grander scheme of the tale that's told in the first 6 tracks, they do concern themselves with a lot of the same themes. We had Adam Dance with Antony from Antony and the Johnsons, and while I've never really been a big fan of that project and Antony's vocals have never really rubbed me the right way. I think the way he accompanies Björk on this track is really wonderful. I think that her and the way that Anthony both just have a penchant for chamber pop and their eccentric vocal styles really does make them kindred spirits, and they just play together really well on this track. And when Anthony sort of takes the spotlight on this song, the way that he sings just kind of sounds like a weird, warped, glitched out voice. He's got a really strong vibrato that just sounds overtaken with emotion. Of course, the strings continue on this track. This song also features some of the busiest percussion on the record, some strange glitchy electronics, and Björk's lyrics on this track are some of my favorite on the entire record. One of the stranger metaphors on the entire LP too, talking about two coral reefs that are, I guess, sort of thirsty in low tide, and they're looking for this ocean of love to, I guess, kind of quench them and bring them back to life. The track Mouth Mantra, while it's not a bad song, I guess I was sort of expecting maybe a bigger lead up to the finish of the album, though the really dreary 3/4 strings are pretty nice and do feel sort of waltz-ish, even if the electronic percussion does kind of take that vibe away as the song progresses. And the song Quicksand, I'm a little torn on it. I wish the track wasn't so short. I wish the ending wasn't so abrupt. But looking at the song simply from a lyrical standpoint, it does bring the album quite a bit of closure, I think, and I think maybe in a grander, more abstract sense, deals with a lot of the feelings addressed on the song Family. And despite its brevity, the song does feature one of the denser, more intricate instrumentals on the entire record, a really great melody too. And even though this album will be categorized as a breakup record, it does leave that album off feeling kind of hopeful in a sense. I feel like the way that the mother figure and the child figure on this track are connected kind of staves off the sense of loneliness and dread that's so tangible on many of the other tracks here. Above that, I think we just have a collection of really well written, well composed, well produced, and just really gorgeously performed art pop and chamber pop songs here. I think the really nimble and dynamic and detailed string arrangements pair very nicely with the quiet but incredibly detailed beats. And even without reading too much into the lyrics or the overall narrative, the album does have a very nice flow to it and feels like it works in three very distinct parts. While it's not incredibly catchy or immediate or hard-hitting, if you're looking for something that's a bit slower, more emotional, more melodic, and soul-touching, I would say give this record a listen. I'm feeling a strong 8 to a light 9 on this LP. Transition! If you've given this record a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, Vulnicura, forever.